Human rights. Early in 1948, there were only a few independent states in Africa. Ethiopia, Egypt, and Liberia voted in favor of adopting the declaration. During the following years, almost all people fought for independence in Africa. There are 53 African members in the United Nations. Most of them have signed treaties in favor of human rights. These international instruments allow people to claim what they need and also allows them to get their rights as human beings. Colonialism and slavery had become to an end, but as time passes, people stop respecting human rights because of specific reasons, and this affects many Africans, and conflicts start emerging from governments and populations among African countries. Chad. This African country has many human rights concerns due to the fact that the political situation is very tense in this moment. Human rights defenders continue to face serious situations like harassments and often damage with torture and even forced disappearance and executions. Civilians and humanitarian workers have been killed and sometimes abducted. Women and girls are victims of rape and many other violence. Children can still be recruited as soldiers or abducted. Human Rights Watch has been promoting and working on all of the victims of their exiled former president, Hissène Habré, to bring him to justice after all the deaths he caused. He is accused of thousands of political killings and tortures when he was ruling Chad from 1982 to 1990. In general, human rights in Chad have been described as poor. Institutions such as Freedom House name Chad as not free. This country is strongly limiting human rights with numerous serious right abuses. Also, Transparency International has ranked Chad as one of the most corrupt countries with human rights violations in the whole world. The type of conflict in Chad is governmental since the president committed many crimes against human rights, which led to numerous deaths. So mainly the government was the most involved thanks to the president Hissène Habré. Mali has stabilized since the armed conflict of the years 2012 to 2013. Mostly the northern regions continue to be infested with lawlessness and a lot of violence from both government forces and non-government forces. There has been a decrease of human rights abuses. Malian's government members have made little effort to investigate and solve these cases, but Mali's government generally respects the human rights of the people and also observes their constitutional provisions like freedom of speech and of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of religion, and also the prohibitions, arrest and detention, exile, torture, and discrimination based on the race, sex, language, or economic and social status. In this country, there are no cases of political prisoners. Conditions in prisons are very poor and overcrowded. They don't have medical facilities and good food supply. Also, there is many violence inside of the prisons. There are inhumane crimes and torture. Their constitutional laws prohibits these practices, but sometimes these are abused and civilians have to deal with them. Disappearance is not very often done. After several years, the political situation in Mali stabilized in 2014. Through this year, there were several attacks by Al-Qaeda, along with other ethnic groups attacking Malian soldiers. There was little improvement in security and progress that allowed to negotiate a settlement. The type of conflict in Mali is ethnic because ethnic groups were attacking Mali involving human rights. It is also territorial because they are not respecting each other's territories. Human rights in Kenya are one of the best in Africa. There are threats in Kenya that have to do with corruption and patterns of serious human rights violations by Kenyan security forces, including mostly mass killings and torture. As the election of 2012 got closer, the country was still dealing with violence after the presidential election of 2007, which caused more than 1,000 deaths and the displacement of hundreds of thousands. In the year of 2000, And 10. Kenyans got a new constitution that improved the government structure and enforced human rights in Kenya. This also improved the police and judicial reforms. A non-governmental organization called Kenya Human Rights Commission was founded in 1992 and finally registered in 1994. This commission has campaigns to create a good culture in Kenya, full of human rights and a stabilized democratic culture too. Its work is done through monitoring, documenting, and getting records about right violations.
A very popular drug with poor family and children is Jenkem. Jenkem is composed of fermented human waste. Jenkem is an inhalant and hallucinogen. The Jenkem name is derived from Kenkem, a brand of glue that was a very popular inhalant in Africa. One user reported that this was way more potent than cannabis, and it created visual and auditory hallucinations for about an hour and a half. One of the main problems in the use of Jenkem is that you could contract a very dangerous bacteria, cholera or even HIV/AIDS. Another big problem are the gases produced in the process of fermentation that are insane. These gases, methane and hydrogen sulfide, can lead to asphyxiation and oxygen deprivation. One of the most popular drugs is Niobe. Niobe is a mixture of heroin, rat poison, and antiretrovirals. It is used to treat patients with HIV. Some users report that you forget the feeling of morphine, and after it wears off, they start feeling pain. Many South Africans use Niobe because of religious purposes, because they think they can communicate with God and other spiritual creatures. Other buyers think that they are actually consuming pure heroin, but in reality it's Niobe. Niobe was created when African drug traffickers started taking away some of the heroin in shipments and adding other substances to create more profit as the drug moved southbound to South Africa. During my research about drug trafficking in South Africa, I learned that Niobe is not only the three ingredients mentioned at the beginning, but it can include and is not limited to heroin, tenofovir, strychnine, efavirenz, and birth control pills. In Kenya, the most popular drug is khat, a leafy green plant that contains stimulants that speed up the body, but the effects are so minute that some people cannot even feel them. Khat is chewed and is packed in groups of many leaves. Khat grows in trees all along East Africa. The effects are alertness, happiness, and talk activeness. It also may cause sleep disruptiveness and make pre-existing mental health problems worse. Khat is often linked with terrorism as a way of funding it, but many supporters say that terrorists view Khat as blasphemy.
Gender equality in Africa. Gender equality is a very important objective that we have to achieve. It's important to achieve the equal participation of women and men in society and the economy. The World Bank's Africa region helped to reach this goal by improving the lives of women and men by supporting government partnerships with knowledge and finance. Gender equality in South Africa. In this country, the difference of income between gender varies depending on the level of income you are. Like in the low income, women gain more money than men, with 20.5% and men 9.7%. In middle income, men gain 18.4% and women 15.5%, but in high incomes, men gain 11.0% and women only gain 5.4%. Also, poorly paid women are still most at risk of poverty and violence, but the employment in the non-agricultural sector has increased from 43% in 1996 to 45% in 2012, and 77% of women gain the same amount as men. Also, the representation of women in the parliament increased from 3% in 1994 to 44% in 2009. In Congo, although their beliefs say different things, they have been trying to improve gender equality. Here are some examples. In 2012, 94% of girls went to primary school while 86% of boys did. In 2011, 73% of women aged more than 15 were literate compared to 86% of men. In 2010, women had an average of 5 years of schooling while men had 7 years average. In 2013, women represented 86% of the whole labor force. In 2013, 70% of women working was involved in labor force, while men was 74%. Gender equality in Egypt. In early 2014, a new constitution was made. This constitution dictated equality for all citizens, and that the state has to make sure to reach gender equality in every aspect, like civil, political, economical, social, and cultural rights. Also, the discrimination of women that tend to have based on religion. This constitution established a council named National Council for Women. So Egypt is trying little by little to improve gender equality, and in no time soon they are going to reach it. Gender equality is a conflict that, although it's been improving, it still has a lot to develop, especially in the poorest countries of Africa. But if we can start changing the belief of the people and educate them different, this problem may end soon. So we have to find a way to change people's mind, and this can only be achieved with the help of the men themselves.
In Africa, there is a lot of migration, mainly from sub-Saharans to North Africa. There is a lot of consequences as much as there is privileges in migrating to another part of the region. For example, moving to another place can get you a new job with more benefits, but there is also economic, political, and social disparity when you get into a new place. In the pre-colonial era, groups of people were based on prevailing socio-political conditions. Movements to other places were not planned correctly, and it was mainly in big groups, and individuals were really diverse and had different ideas and were not that united. South Africans are considered to migrate to North Africa a lot, since when there were the 1960s, workers' families had poor working conditions and didn't get a lot of money. This caused them to want to move to the other side of the continent. They were also treated with no respect at all and just gave them jobs for 2 years, and when they found new people that would work for more and for less money, they would kick them out. Also, one reason for internal migration is because there is imbalances in the region. For example, the dominant direction, in this case the north, and the not dominant, the south. Here we can see that in the north there is mostly more jobs and people want to go there more, and in the south people are leaving and people are not getting enough money. Migrants travel to Kenya and also from Kenya. Kenya receives migrants from West Africa, North Africa, and South Africa, since it is kind of in the middle of the continent. Kenya is considered as a source and as a destination for people, but not everything about Kenya is paradise, because there is a risk of exploitation in domestic jobs, farms, brothels, etc. In 2009, Kenya's population was 38.6 million. With predictions from the official government, there is an estimate that by 2020, the population will be more than 50 million. Population growth is really common nowadays, since many people are arriving to Kenya. Kenya's diaspora is a really important contributor to the economy of Kenya. The central bank gets information from money transfers, so this is how they know how people are moving throughout the country. They know if people are new or people are leaving or people are just transferring money around. From the people that migrate out of Kenya, 55% go to North America and 27% go to Europe. Kenya also gains a lot of money because of tourism investments, and that is really necessary for the economy. A big part of Kenyan labor is based on farming. Mostly people leave because there is a lack of development in the economy and in labor, since many people cannot live with the salary of a farmer. Young people are really affected by unemployment, since there is not enough for everyone and there is a big quantity of people arriving to Kenya from other places. Nigeria is located in West Africa. They are one of the few countries in Africa that have made a draft policy about migration. This policy consists of covering the development in the country and migration across the country. One of its most important components is the human rights policy on Nigerian migrants. Nigeria is a really common place for people to come in and out. For the last decades, the immigrants living in Nigeria have doubled from 477,135 to 971,450, according to the National Population Commission. But immigrants only represent 0.7% of the whole population in Nigeria. From all the immigrants in Nigeria, 74% come from the West African states, like Ghana, Benin, Mali, etc. There has been a serious increase of West African citizens coming to Nigeria. It increased 34% over the past decade, from 63% of all immigrants to 97%. Some Liberian refugees are a small part of the immigrants living in Nigeria. Ghana is located on West Africa. It has a population of 25.9 million people. Migration in Ghana is very common. In this case, less people stay in Ghana and more people leave it. Population growth rates have a lot of impact in Ghana's poverty. The population has been growing 2.9%. One of the main reasons that there is poverty in Ghana is the growth rate and the income inequality patterns. The economy has increased also since the 1980s, which are controlled by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The economy grew 6.3% in 2007. Migration in Ghana has become extra-regional. 71% of Ghana's immigrants stay in West Africa. 7.3% go to the US and 5.9% go to the United Kingdom. There is basically a lot of transferring in Ghana. Many people come and many people go, and that's why sometimes the population grows a lot and then it doesn't, and this is why there is a lot of changes in the economy. It mainly grows, but sometimes it can also decrease. Ghanaian migrants are commonly found in different areas around the world. There is an estimate that there are Ghanaians found in 33 different countries. Ghana is considered a place where really skilled people live. 46% go to Western Africa, where there is a lot of medical professions and really high quality jobs.